Hello, my name's Alan Heath, and I've been looking at some of the conspiracy theories concerning the death of Princess Diana in 1997. Well, the first thing that strikes me is the following. If a driver is 3 times over the alcohol limit and is driving at well over 3 times the speed limit into a tunnel where 8 people had been killed in the previous 14 years, it should be of no surprise whatsoever that a fatal accident occurs. Now, even the conspiracy theorists themselves, who claim that maybe he wasn't drunk, Henri Paul is in fact seen on the CCTV cameras in the Ritz Hotel doing his shoelaces up and not falling over in the process, and also talking to the security guards in the hotel, who probably would have said something had they noticed the state he was in. Having said that, he'd been taking pills, and they may not have noticed that. But even the conspiracy theorists, their idea is, well, no, he wasn't driving at 3 times the limit, he was just going over 2 times the limit. He was driving at 100 kilometers an hour. Well, even so, driving at 100 kilometers an hour, assuming he's not drunk, going into a tunnel like that, I'm afraid that is going to cause an accident. And this is what is the big shame of this, because there are people who cannot believe that a person such as Princess Diana would go in a traffic accident. So they have to make up some kind of conspiracy all around it. Now, I have the greatest sympathy for Mr. Al Fayed, who lost his son in this crash. But for what he's done by blaming, for example, Prince Philip and the British establishment and the security services and all the rest of it, it's very unfortunate. Had the intelligence services wanted to have killed Diana, which is totally absurd, I think, but had they wanted to do that, then surely they could have found a much better way of doing so. They could have brought down the plane, they could have done something when she'd been in Sardinia before flying to Paris. She could have stood on a landmine or something like that. I mean, there's so many things, rather than some extremely complicated way of hitting the 13th pillar in a tunnel in Paris, which they didn't even know that they were going to be driving down. Unless, of course, the driver is part of the plot. Unless you go into the conspiracy route where the driver himself, who is said to have had contact with the security services, and that's head of security in the Ritz, I suppose he knew what was coming in and out. He would have known some of the less people who earn the money in a less honest way, should we say, who would have stayed there. They would have had contact with the police. I think that's quite clear. But it is just totally absurd to believe that he was on a suicide mission to kill himself, and in order to kill Diana as well. And yet another point, and this is a very important point, is that of 4 people in the car, 3 were killed. The one who survived was sitting in the front and wearing a seatbelt. Had the people in the rear also been wearing a seatbelt? We don't know. Even the doctors themselves said, well, had she been wearing a seatbelt, she may have lived. So there is the answer to this one is no some great conspiracy about who had the Mercedes. The Mercedes itself had been stolen, and had been they got it back some 3 months earlier. Who'd had it and what had they done with it, or anything else. The mystery here is, why is this a mystery? They died because they were driving far too fast in an area which was known to be dangerous. The other 8 people who were killed in the previous 13 years, I don't know how much was actually spent on looking into their deaths. The British police has just finished a £4 million investigation into a traffic accident caused by speed. There is a moral. When you get in the car, you put a seatbelt on. And when the speed limit is 45 kilometers an hour, you drive at 45 kilometers an hour.